Hi, I'm Maggie Noe. Welcome back to the RIP Reading is Phenomenal AP Lit Podcast. And we're going to go right into it. Quick intro there. So we left off when Linda and John, they're at the hospital, and Linda doesn't even recognize John, mistaking John for her lover, Pope, somebody who John really does hate. And so that angers John, for not even his own mother recognizes him. Nobody can recognize or understand him. Lenina doesn't understand his honorable code. Bernard is just using John for social advancement, and to him, John is really just a scientific. He's just a research project. The director, who's his father, thinks he's shameful. Watson laughed at his poetry. His reservation saw him as an outcast. Everybody in this other world, everybody in this other world, which he has always just looked up to, has thought of as this beautiful, amazing place, just recognizes him as a savage. He walked in a room where he was watching, there were these children, and they were watching a movie about savages, and they were laughing, and he knew, they were laughing at him, and and now not even his own mom recognizes him, and it's just showing that, he is just fading. It just feels like he's not even he's fading. He's not fading as much as nobody can understand who he really is. Everybody is just making assumptions, or nobody is truly trying to understand. And it's because this society is based on nobody wants to understand who people are. Nobody really gets deep with other people. And so John just wants somebody to understand him. At the reservation, it could have been possible, except he was an outcast there, because people really did develop those strong relationships. But in London, people are against that. It's all about the state, and he doesn't want to be just a part of the state, because in the state right now, he is a savage. And so, just to make things even worse, when he was standing by his dying mother, a group of students who were learning about death, called death conditioning, they walked by his mother, and they started making comments on how ugly was she and old she was. And to this, obviously, John responded pretty poorly. He started yelling at them. He even pushed one to the ground. And through all of this, the nurses were only worried about John messing up the children's training. And that just shows how little society places on human life there. Everybody is replaceable. Like with Bernard, when the director and Dr. Foster were talking about replacing him, they were saying he was great at his job, but the director would rather sacrifice him as an example, because he said there are so many others to replace him. And the doctor didn't even try to save Linda, because he literally just said, we're going to try and get her out of the way, because there's constant life being produced out of these factories. So this really brings up the question, when we start manufacturing human beings out of a factory, do we just look at them like every other product? Do we look at them like toys, TVs, iPods? They're valuable, but when they're old, scratched, they become outdated. They're gross. They're useless, and nobody wants them. They're antiques. No one wants to buy. And John is kind of like this living puppy in a basket of stuffed ones. And it's more than, you need more. You can't just buy him. You have to show him love, and it has to be real and affectionate, not just in bed. Literally, you can't just put him on. All right. But this just shows capitalism and the need to constantly drive the economy has led people to devalue lives and only think about the greater good, which many times is not the greater good that they're working for, but just a few people on top. Like the lower castes are only working for the higher castes. They've been trapped. And it's just another, this situation really just, throughout Linda's whole life when she was stuck at the reservation, all she could think about was relying on civilization. And it destroyed her. And when she came back, civilization is what destroyed her. The Soma is what destroyed her. The lack of care from professionals destroyed her. The only person that even cared about her was John. And that was because he grew up in a place where people mattered. And so, yeah, that is just my analysis of that part of the book. What a great time we are having here. I hope to see you next time for another episode of RIP Reading is Phenomenal AP Lit Podcast.